Hello, this is Mary Jo Fox and Mary Matthew, and we'd like to share some information about the mindset for scoring as you start to score your students' assessments. When I'm going to score, one of the things that's important is for me to have the rubrics in front of me. I need to look at the rubrics and the attributes of each of those for each trait. I can't rely on my memory or my intuition. I always have to be thinking about each trait individually and scoring that trait by itself. As I'm trying to look at the rubric, what I always do is I think about that 3 as that middle point on the continuum where my strengths and my weaknesses are even. When I'm reading my paper, then I think, okay, is it a stronger paper? And if it is, then I start looking at those 4s and 5s. Is it a weaker paper? And I start looking at the attributes of the 1s and 2s. One of the things to remember is that you are scoring the writing. You're not assessing the writer. And this is just one performance from that writer.
As you're rating, if a student doesn't appear to write to the prompt, try to do your best job of scoring it anyways. We know sometimes that it may not be a direct match to the prompt, but we still want the students to have an opportunity to receive feedback on their writing. Really, as you're scoring, it's important that you take time to read each paper thoroughly. Don't skim the papers. Once you've read the paper, take a moment, reflect about the paper, look at the rubrics, maybe highlight the rubrics, the places where you feel the scores are most evident from the student's writing. Once you've picked your score, don't dwell on it, move on. If you get stuck, stop and talk to your members of your PLC. As you're scoring, remember you will only award whole points, no half points are given. If you're sitting on the fence, always give students the benefit of the doubt and round up. Also, when thinking about scoring, a 5 paper isn't required to be perfect. Only light editing would be required. And as you're looking at paragraphing, it's in the trait of organization. Give our Olathe students the benefit of the doubt. If you can't decide between a 3 or a 4, again, round up. As between now and April 1st, your students are completing their writing assessments. Once the writing assessment is finished, you need to complete your actual scoring of it. We hope that scoring will happen between April 1st and April 16th. It's a great idea for you and your PLCs even to work on that scoring together. You'll have more information about our district day where you bring your papers and do a second read.
Hello, second grade teachers. Welcome to Warm Up to Scoring. This is a screencast that's been designed to help you to feel prepared to score the first reads of your second grade writing assessment. This is Lisa Thompson
and Sandy Larson,
and we're excited to spend some time with you helping you to feel warmed up for scoring. Let's look now and talk for a moment about why is it important to take time to calibrate writing samples. This is a good practice for all writing raters. No matter how many years you've been rating papers on the 6th trait rubric, this is a good sound practice to help us all to feel very prepared. This, as I said earlier, was designed to help you feel warmed up and prepared to score your students' writing for first reads. We've sent you some sample papers to practice rating, and we're going to ask you to refer to the rubric. We sent you a copy of the rubric as well, and we're going to ask you to confer with your PLC when you start doing some scoring of your first reads of your student papers. It's important to have that discussion time. So with that, let's get ready. I'd like for you to go ahead and look at example A. It's titled The Statue of Liberty. I'd like for you to take a moment, pause the screencast, and reread this particular example, and then look over the rubric, the informational rubric, and consider how would you score this example A. Take a moment to pause. Okay, now that you've had a chance to read Sample A, let's get ready to go over and look at the informational writing rubric. This paper was collected last year from a second grade classroom, as is the next paper that Sandy will lead you through. And we had a chance with Mary Jo Fox to score this paper and the next paper. All three of us took time to score these papers. And so the information we're going to share back with you now is really from all three of us and how we felt in using the rubric, looking at Sample A and Sample B. So let's look at the rubric. Here we are with the rubric for Sample A, and we're going to start out looking at ideas. And you notice there that we have a check mark for the writing, explains a lot about the topic. The writer explained a lot of interesting facts about the Statue of Liberty. Some facts that I noted that the writer included about the color of the Statue of Liberty is green. The writer told us it was a gift from France, that it's located in the New York Harbor, that we can tour the crown. The writer also referenced Emma's poem about the Statue of Liberty. The writer explains freedom and states the statue is a symbol of freedom and democracy. So from this, we as readers learn a lot about this topic. Now let's look at organization. And you can see our check marks fell into the developing category. We noticed that this writer included a beginning and an ending. We felt that the order of ideas made some sense. There were some places you'll note that were slightly out of order. The writer states that the statue is a symbol of freedom and democracy, and then begins to share the location of Emma's poem at the statue, and provides information about tours to the arm and the crown, and then the writer goes back to discussing freedom. So you'll notice just a little bit of disorganization there with those facts. Next, let's move on to word choice. And in word choice, you'll notice that we feel that the writer picked exactly the right words for this topic. The writer made this information very clear to us by using words such as immigrants, freedom, democracy, military, freedom, and symbol. The words that this writer chose really helped the reader to see the topic. Now let's move on to sentence fluency. You can see that our check marks fell in the strong category. We felt that the sentences were complete thoughts and were well written. It was easy to read most of these sentences aloud. The writer used varied beginnings of the sentences. If you'll notice the first four sentences of this piece, the first four start the Statue of Liberty. The second sentence begins Emma's poem. The third sentence begins the outside of the statue. And the fourth sentence begins the people think. So a good variety there of sentence beginnings. The author also did a good job with a variety of lengths. And you can really see a good example of that toward the end of the bottom of the first page. The author's writing about freedom is where I can say and think and do what I want. And then the author uses a shorter sentence that says freedom is not free. So some varied lengths there. Lastly, let's go to conventions. And you'll notice again that we have marked many check marks in the strong category with one in developing. Most of the spelling was correct even on harder words such as symbol, freedom, statue, democracy, and harbor. Capitals, for proper nouns, you'll notice that there were a couple that were missing, such as America and France. For grammar, there weren't really any noticeable errors and it was used correctly. And the punctuation, ending punctuation is correct. So those pieces of conventions helped us in determining how we marked or placed the check marks on the rubric. Now let's look to see how did we actually score this paper. So for ideas, this was given a 5 because as you can see our check marks all fell in the strong category. For organization, we scored this a 3. Again, the check marks were in the developing category. For word choice, a 5 with all check marks in the strong. Sentence fluency, a 5 as well, with the check marks in the strong category. In conventions, we scored a 4. It had some things that were strong and then one area of developing, so we scored this paper a 4. Okay, take a moment now, look at your rubric for example A to see how you scored it and how that compares with how we scored this paper.
Okay, let's take a minute to pause and read example B with your PLC. Okay, let's take a minute and look at the trait of ideas. As you'll note, when we looked at this paper, we felt the writing stayed on topic. It explains the stars and the colors. It talks about the stripes and the colors of the stripes. It doesn't really give meaning about these items, though. But however, it does explain the topic of freedom. So we felt the writing stayed on topic. My writing has some facts. We checked that. There are some facts and details. And the reader will absolutely learn something as they read this paper. So we scored all 3 parts in developing. As we look on to organization, we felt this paper did not have a real strong beginning, a somewhat strong ending. So we stuck with, we went all the way down to the bottom because the beginning was not clear at all. So we marked that in the beginning category. It does have facts and details, but as you'll notice, many of the facts that describe freedom and describe the flag are very random. So we marked down in the beginning category of my ideas are not in order. As we look at word choice, we felt that the author did have some good words, but they were very ordinary words, normal words that we would see a second grader use, such as stars, stripes, freedom, slavery, president. They weren't the exact exceptional words. They were very good ordinary words, so we stuck with the developing category. And the words did give a general picture of the topic. As we move on to sentence fluency, there are sentences. We did not, you'll notice, mark the box in developing that says some of my sentences are easy to read aloud, because even though they were difficult to read, we felt that some of them were difficult to read because of the spelling or the punctuation, and we felt we would mark that over in the conventions category instead of in the fluency. We did feel that the writer had a couple of different ways they began their sentences. For example, freedom is, you can, every day, some different variations there. And there was a little bit of variation in the sentence length, but not a great variation. So as you can see, we did all 3 check marks in the developing category. As we look at conventions, we felt the writer used grammar correctly most of the time. However, some of the sentences were hard to read or the words were hard to read because of the spelling. The capitalization did not follow the rules. There were often times at the beginning of the sentence there was not a capital letter, or some pronouns were not capitalized, such as God or America. And a lot of the punctuation was in the incorrect place. So overall, we did most of our check marks in the beginning category for conventions. As we look at the paper as a whole, we look at ideas, you'll notice that since most of our check marks were in developing, we gave it a 3. In organization, we went with a 2 because we had some of the check marks in developing and some in beginning. Word choice, we went with a 3. Sentence fluency, also a 3. And conventions, we went with a 2 as we had some check marks in developing and some in beginning. So now is a good time to stop, talk with your PLC, see how your scores compared with the scores that Lisa, Mary Jo, and I gave example B. Okay, we think you're ready. Are you ready? Set. Rate. You might find it helpful to rate a few of your papers together as a PLC until you get on a roll, and then feel free to rate the rest of your papers on your own. We look forward to seeing you on April 17th at Regency Place. Please look for more information to come your way from Mary Matthews' office regarding the materials you need to have prepared and ready to go for April 17th. Thank you.